Mabel King, who played on the hit 70s TV show What's Happening as Mabel Mama Thomas? And you may also remember her as the Wicked Witch of the West, Eveline, in the movie The Wiz. Well, if you remember Mabel King like I do, then did you know that Mabel passed away in 1999 from diabetes and she had both of her legs amputated and her arm? I ain't lying. And did you know that Mabel had a son who passed away 3 years before she did, and they say from a drinking problem, and he was a con artist? Yep, that's what they said. And I don't know if you've seen this picture. Someone took this picture of her when she was in the home, and they say this is what she looked like right before she passed away. Wow. That is not a good look. Well, if you didn't know, people, you gonna learn today. Now check this out. Hey everybody, this is Geneva of Geneva's Closet Talk Show. Please make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet. And you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. Now, let's get into the news. I am reading from aaregistry.org, and it says, Mabel King was born on December 25th, 1932. She was a black film, stage, and television actress and singer. She was born Mabel Elizabeth Washington in Charleston, South Carolina, the daughter of Rosalie Washington and Joseph Washington. I actually found something different based on my research. Her mother was Rosalie Washington, and her father was Edward Eddie Washington, but we'll get into that later. She was raised in Harlem, New York, where she eventually became a gospel and nightclub singer. She did not start acting until her mid-30s in 1966 when she played the role of Maria in the national touring play of Porgy and Bess. The following year, she played in the Broadway musical/comedy Hello, Dolly. In 1972, she appeared in the Broadway musical Don't Play Us Cheap. The following year, she appeared in the film version of the play. The same year, she played the Queen of Merthia, if I'm saying that correctly, in the horror film Ganja and Hess, if I'm saying that correctly. In January 1975, she played the role of Eveline, the Wicked Witch of the West, in the all-black cast of the Broadway musical The Wiz. The role earned her a Drama Desk Award nomination for Outstanding Feature Actress in a Musical. Her performance in The Wiz brought her much film attention, and soon after, she received roles in the films The Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings with Billy D. Williams and James Earl Jones, and Scott Joplin with Billy D. Williams and Clifton Davis. In June 1980, King returned to stage work starring in the Broadway musical It's So Nice to Be Civilized. In 1976, she was offered the role of Mabel Thomas on the sitcom What's Happening, a role she played from 1976 to 1978. Due to disagreements with the direction the creators wanted to take the series, King left What's Happening in 1978 after 2 seasons. That same year, she reprised the role of Eveline for the 1978 film version of The Wiz. It was the second time in her career that she appeared in a movie after being in the stage version, the first being Don't Play Us Cheap. The following year, she appeared in the film The Jerk. King received mostly guest spots on television series, including Fantasy Island, The Jeffersons, Amazing Stories, and Tales from the Dark Side. In between, she reprised the role of Mama Johnson in the made-for-TV movie The Jerk 2, 1984. Her last 2 movie roles were Scrooge, 1988, and Dead Men Don't Die, 1990. She was married to Melvin King from June 1967 until September 1989. They had 1 child, a son named Larry King. King was diabetic, and in 1986, one of her toes was amputated as a result of the disease. In 1990, King suffered a stroke and entered the motion picture and television country house and hospital in Woodland Hills, California. In 1991, King's diabetes resulted in the amputation of her left leg. In 1994, her right leg was also amputated. King would also lose one of her arms to diabetes. Her son Larry died in 1996. She is best known as Mabel Mama Thomas on the sitcom What's Happening and that of Eveline the Witch, a role she originated in the stage musical The Wiz and the reprise film adaptation. Mabel King died on November 9th, 1999 at the age of 66. I'm reading from a Jet magazine publication dated for October 19th, 1978, with Shaka Khan on the front cover, but an article of Mabel King in the inside that says, "What's happening Mabel King out in show feud?" Reliable sources have told Jet that What's Happening co-star Mabel King will not return to the show because the producers have told her she is no longer needed. According to the sources, Miss King was called to the toy production offices before the season began and told that her character didn't add enough humor to the popular situation comedy. Reportedly, Miss King was offered to make 5 cameo appearances at a good price, but she adamantly refused, insisting that she be in all the shows or none. This season, Raj, Ernest Thomas, and Rerun, Fred Berry, have moved into their own apartment, and Mama Thomas have been scripted out. Cleverly, the producers have had soda fountain waitress Shirley Hempfield move into the Thomas home with Raj's sassy baby sister, Danielle Spencer. There will be references to Mama. However, Miss King will not be seen, but the sources added that Miss King would do further toy productions if asked in the proper way. Although she has no immediate future series plans, Miss King has already played the Wicked Witch of the East in The Wiz, will make several talk show appearances, and contemplate cameo appearances on running TV shows. Remember that the article that I just read was dated 1978. This article that I am reading from iloveoldschoolmusic.com is dated for 2018, and it says the real truth of why Mabel King got fed up and suddenly quit What's Happening. Actor Ernest Lee Thomas, or as we old schoolers like to call him, Roger or Raj from What's Happening, recalls some very interesting facts about his years on the show that the public never knew. One of them included what drove actress Mabel King, who played his mom, to walk off the show during the height of its success. Prior to filming What's Happening, when Ernest found out that the actress playing his mother, Mabel King, was none other than the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wiz movie, he was blown away. "I went to see her Broadway in The Wiz about 15 times," said Thomas. "I love that musical. Who knew that she ended up playing my mother? I was in awe." Unfortunately, their on-screen mother-son stint didn't last very long. Ernest said that Mabel King was sick and tired of going at it with the show's producers and writers over their refusal to take advantage of the show's instant popularity to set better examples of strong black families on television. She oftentimes instantaneously changed the script during filming and stated that the lack of positive black roles was one of the biggest tragedies on television. She hated that her character remained a single black mother who worked as a maid. Therefore, Mabel chose her personal integrity over money by choosing to say peace out to the show and quit right after the first season was wrapped. The late Mabel King once said she always kept her weight up to 260 pounds and above during her stint on What's Happening to please the producers. She also once joked in a late 70s Jet magazine interview that if she was given a choice between food and sex, she'd choose food because she said it would last longer and it would fill me up. She laughed. In addition to Mabel King being an amazing actress, she also loved to cook, because apparently The Wiz had their own cookbook and Mabel had her mama's macaroni pie published in it, and I also found a recipe for her Mabel King's banana fritters. Another fact about Mabel King is that after leaving What's Happening, she dabbled in politics. A conservative Republican, Mabel campaigned for President Reagan's re-election in 1984. I'm about to read an article from the Los Angeles Times dated for October 3rd, 1994 that says, "Tribute honors life, work of actress Mabel King, entertainment star known for her roles in The Wiz and TV's What's Happening, celebrates with 300 friends." Now, before I read this article that, remember, is dated for 1994, remember by this time in 1989, she done divorced from her husband Melvin. And then in 1990, just 1 year later, she had a stroke. And she is now living in the motion picture and television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California. And then remember in 91, her diabetes resulted in her left leg being amputated. Then in 94, her right leg was amputated. Now, we are in 1994 when this article came out. Mabel King put on her special red dress Sunday night, and as befits a star of stage and screen, she was glamorized with gold accessories, including a beaded gold hat designed to bring to mind visions of Cleopatra. Then she sat back and enjoyed the show with 300 of her friends, all of them celebrating King's life and spirit at a tribute that went on for hours at St. Anne's Melkite Greek Catholic Church. I think it's wonderful, King said. These are all loving people. The sentiment, friends said, was mutual. She's got the greatest attitude you've ever seen, said Dick Sheenan. King, 61, is perhaps best known for her role as the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wiz, both in the Broadway version of the play and the movie. She also played a sitcom mom in the 1970s TV show What's Happening. In 1990, she suffered a stroke. In 1991, her left leg was amputated, and last May, she lost her right leg too. Sheena said organizers hope Sunday's show would raise $10,000, enough to buy King an electric wheelchair so she could get around with ease at the Motion Picture and Television Hospital in Woodland Hills, where she now lives. Or King said even beyond. I want to get back to work so bad, she said. On Sunday night, however, it was all play. I'm having myself a good time, King said, reviling in her hat and matching gold pocketbook. Even my blood pressure today was just beautiful. She is absolutely beautiful, actress Joan Carol Benson said, and she looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm reading from a Jet magazine article dated for November 1999, and it says, TV, movie, and stage actress Mabel King, 66, dies in L.A. Mabel King, who starred as Mama in the hit sitcom What's Happening and was Eveline in the Broadway hit The Wiz, recently died in Los Angeles following a long battle with diabetes. She was 66. Born in South Carolina and raised in New York's Harlem, King performed as a youngster on The Ed Sullivan Show. Her movie credits included The Babysitter, The Jerk, and Dead Men Don't Die. She also appeared in the film version of The Wiz, but it was her performance in the ensemble cast of What's Happening that made her a national celebrity. The diabetes forced the amputation of both her legs several years ago. King is survived by her mother, Rosalie Washington, a sister, Rose Washington, and 5 nieces. Her son, Larry, died in 1996 at age 42. Officials at the funeral home told Jet that her body was cremated. Memorial services were being planned at Jet press time. I am reading from findadeath.com/Mabel King, where someone spoke on an encounter that they had with Mabel before she passed away. And it says, a couple of years ago, a pal and I went to the Motion Picture Country home in Woodland Hills to visit Stanley Kramer. This guy was really old and really ill, and now he's really dead. While we were waiting for Stanley to wake up, I peeked into the room next to him, and there was Mabel. She was a large, legless lady. Her eyes were really bulging, and she beckoned me forward with a large hand with gigantic fingernails like talons, beckoning me. Slowly, I approached her. She wanted to have a cigarette, so I opened her door, wheeled her out there, and smoked with her. So after it was over, I left her, and my friend and I went to see Stanley. On the way out, there was Mabel, beckoning me with those fingers again. She wanted to go for a stroll. I had some free time, so I took her out the front entrance and we smoked some more. She didn't want to go back in, not at all. After about 20 minutes of trying to convince her I had to leave, finally, and I feel terrible about this, I told her I would come back in a couple of days and see her again. In the back of my mind, I thought I could, but knew I wouldn't. I couldn't hurt her feelings, and I couldn't stick it out, so I dished Mabel. I don't mean to be too disrespectful, but this is what she looked like that day. In 1986, she lost a toe to diabetes. In 1989, she had a stroke, leaving her left side paralyzed and virtually speechless for over a year. Her son died of cirrhosis and because of a drug problem. And one of the last things he did was try to con Mabel out of $50. Around this time, she lost the will to live. But friends organized a benefit for her, which cheered her immensely. It made enough money to get her a new wheelchair and a new outlook on her sad life. A couple years later, she almost died when they tried replacing her hip. Man, I feel for her. Still, she thought she was blessed. There is some amount of smokescreen about Mabel, though. I heard through the celebrity grapevine, before she even died, that some ambulance people dropped her and injured her pretty seriously. That's how I heard she was put up in the motion picture country home. It is a fact that she fell out of her wheelchair at some point and got her top teeth knocked out. Sad. Allegedly, the motion picture country home put her up to stop her from suing. Who knows? Her last home belonged to Vicki L. Chamberlain, who had power of attorney over Mabel. Something definitely happened there. I wonder what the real story is. At the time of her death, Mabel was living on Exhibit Court. It was no secret she was ill. They were already taking her away piece by piece. And on the 9th of November, 1999, she was in the Kaiser Foundation Hospital in Woodland Hills. She had been on dialysis for years, and finally her kidney shut down at 3:55 a.m. She was 66 years old. Mabel was cremated and her ashes given to Miss Chamberlain. And from the looks of it, Miss Chamberlain split from the house, so God only knows where Mabel is now. Hopefully she is resting in the peace she deserves. Very weirdly, at least I think, the obituary didn't hit the papers until the 24th, almost 2 weeks after her death. The Los Angeles Times, which runs obituaries on everyone in show business, never ran one for Mabel. When I emailed the woman there and asked why, she told me it's not news anymore and it's too late. It's probably some legal thing, but I sure am curious to know the real story about what happened to Mabel. Now that is a sad ending for a woman that accomplished so much. Now, I knew that she had her legs amputated, but I didn't know anything about her legs and her arm being amputated and her teeth being knocked out. She literally died alone in this motion picture hospital place in California. And I didn't even know she had children, let alone a son who was a con artist who died 3 years before she did because of drinking and drug problems. And then she got a divorce in 89. Now, I know that when she passed away, she was 66 years old. And it said that her mom and her sister was still alive. Now, if I'm not mistaken, her and her sister have like a 6-7 year age difference, which means that her sister had to been about 59, 60 when she passed. Where was her sister at? Or her nieces and nephews or something for this celebrity star, auntie, whatever, a sister that they had. If I'm not mistaken, I think it said that when her son passed away, he was like 42, 43, something like that. So what, he didn't have no kids? You know, no grandkids? Not that she could have stayed with her but I'm just, it's just sad. That's all I'm trying to say. It's just a sad ending. Anyway, let me get into a few things that I found about Mabel Elizabeth Washington / King's background that I found interesting. Mabel's grandparents, meaning Mabel's mother, parents' name were Allen Field, born 1871, died January 31st, 1926 in Charleston, South Carolina. And the mother name was Elizabeth Fields, born December 13th, 1875, died January 21st, 1935 at the age of 59 in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, this is a 1910 census report from South Carolina where you see Allen Fields, head of the household. He's 41 years old. And Elizabeth Fields is the wife. She's 39 years old. You see they have several children. And at the bottom, if you notice, there's a daughter named Geronia Fields and a son named Harold Fields. And then you see them again on this actual census report from 1910. But if you also notice on the side where it states the race, It's all M's for mulatto. And we all know what mulatto means. At that time, mulatto meant that a black person had some type of white or something else mixed in them. And obviously the people that was doing the census report could see that because they made sure to put the M. Now we are looking at a census report from 1920. And remember, this is Mabel's grandparents, Mabel's mother parents. We still see Alan, he's 50, Elizabeth is 42. And now we see two more children at the bottom, Rosalie Fields and Mabel Fields. This is now Mabel's mom. She's 7 years old, Rosalie Fields. And it says Mabel Fields. And no, that is not Mabel King. That is Mabel's aunt, Mabel's sister mother. So Mabel grandmother named her daughter Mabel. So basically that lets you know where Mabel got her name from. She got it from her aunt. And then this census report, that is still 1920. You see all the kids mentioned on here, Rosalie, Mabel, and then you also see the M for mulatto. This was some information that I found stating when Mabel's grandfather passed away January 31st, 1926. And you see for the race, they put non-white in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was able to find Alan Fields' death certificate too. And this is information stating when Elizabeth Fields passed away, which was January 21st, 1935 in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't know if you remember that 1910 census report that I just showed you where it showed Mabel's grandparents, Elizabeth and Alan, as head of household and her aunts and uncles, and two at the bottom was a Geronia and a Harold. Well, I actually found Geronia, which is Mabel's aunt, and she married a guy named George Z. Vivo. And based on my research, Mabel's aunt Geronia married this guy, George Zacharias Vivo, which was born about 1905. And it says that he was Dutch West Indies. And they married in like 1946, but he became a citizen in 1943 in Ohio. And I don't even know how long they were married for, but I seen that he was married even prior to her. He was in the army and kind of moved around. But I found information on when he died, and it mentions a whole other wife and children with that wife. So I don't even know if George Zacharias Vivo and Mabel's aunt Geronia even had children together. I don't know, but I found her. Now we're on Mabel's mom, Rosalie Washington, born August 11th, 1911, and died January 9th, 2000 in New York, but born in South Carolina. Mabel's mom, Rosalie Washington, timeline is pretty interesting based on the census reports. By 1920, she's a child. 1930, she's about 21 years old, living in South Carolina, I think doing some maid work. But then when I found her 1940 census report, she's living in New York. Mabel E. Washington is her daughter, 7 years old, and she has another daughter, Rosa Alice Washington, that's 1 year old, and she's living with her brother. Don't you remember that brother was on the census reports back in 1910? Harold Fields is 30 years old, and she's listed as a widow. So from 1930, when she started off as Rosalie Fields, she done got married and had 2 children, and her husband done died, all in a matter of 10 years, and she done moved from South Carolina to New York. The reason why I haven't said too much about Mabel's father is because technically I still don't even know who he is. I'm still trying to figure out how did Wikipedia get Joseph Washington and the other article surfacing out there that has her father as Joseph Washington. I did some research and I came up with a Edward Allen Washington, and I still don't even think that that's the father. Just want to throw that out there for anybody that's going to be doing research on this later on. There is a man that's dated that time South Carolina as a Allen or Eddie Washington. Well, be careful with that one because he is connected to a Rosa Washington. But in 1940, they have him and Rosa in South Carolina, but then we also have 1940 with her, Mabel, and Mabel's sister Rosa in New York. So she couldn't be 2 places at 2 different times. Still on the 1940 census report, got her married 1 place, but then widowed in another. So just be careful with that one, anybody doing future research. Don't you remember I showed you this picture earlier of Mabel King at her fundraiser trying to get assistance with a new wheelchair and some other things, and 300 of her closest friends came, which included some celebrities. Well, I had heard that this person standing behind her was Sherman Hemsley. You know who Sherman Hemsley is, George Jefferson from the Jeffersons? Well, it sure do look like him. What do you think? Just to throw out a few things. When I mentioned earlier in this video that Mabel King was born in Charleston, South Carolina, but she was raised in New York, that's because her mother, Rosalie Washington, relocated to New York sometime in the late 30s. Because remember, Mabel King was born in 1932 in South Carolina, but her sister, Rosa Alice Washington, was born about 1939, 1940 in New York. Just in case you didn't hear me earlier, Mabel King was born on Christmas, December 25th, 1932, and died November 9th, 1999. And her mother, Rosalie Washington, died just 2 months after her on January 9th, 2000. I was very surprised to see that Mabel's grandparents, matter of fact, her grandparents and her aunts and uncles were all considered mulatto. And so much to the point that her grandfather, Allen Fields, on his census reports, they put non-white. So that made me feel like that he must have been like severely light-skinned, that they felt like that they needed to let people know that he was not white. You know, I guess that just lets you know that you never know what black people have some Caucasian in them, because I never would have thought that by just looking at Mabel. I just want to say that this was one of the most confusing genealogy researches I've done, just because practically everybody had the same name. Okay, so Mabel's grandmother name was Elizabeth Fields, and then she had a daughter, remember Geronia? Well, her actual name is Elizabeth Geronia Fields, you know, so you got to look for the Geronia, because other than that, then you just have two Elizabeth Fields. And then remember, Elizabeth had a daughter that she named Rosalie, and then Mabel, okay? And then, so now we got two Mabels, a Mabel Field and then a Mabel Washington / Mabel King. And then remember, Elizabeth had the daughter Rosalie, which is Mabel's mom, and then Rosalie named her daughter Rosa Alice Lee Washington. So, I mean, look, it was very confusing, but in the midst of that, I was trying to figure out, could I make any connection with family members currently as far as Mabel? Now, we know that Mabel had one son, and Mabel's son passed away 3 years before she did in his 40s. So we don't even know if he had any kids. I don't even know. I stopped the research on that. So then my research was then to go to the sister, since it was just her and her sister, and found out that her sister Rosa did have some children. So I did find some people that probably could be some second and third, some great nieces or whatever to Mabel. So she do actually currently have family members out there that is related to her. But as far as trying to find more information on her son, Larry, I stopped it. As far as Melvin, I didn't look anymore, her ex-husband. And Vicky Chamberlain, who was the power of attorney. Really very interested in knowing what exactly happened with Mabel King and Vicky Chamberlain. And we're actually interested in knowing what happened with Mabel and the motion picture hospital place. You know, because, so what is that place? Is that like the drop off for the celebrities when they done lost all their money and their family members don't want to have anything else to do with them? Because I'm just trying to figure out, so there was nobody that could take Mabel. The first thing that come to my mind is like, these celebrities be having money, and then all the family members and stuff are there. They want you to get them some money and help them pay some bills and buy them some stuff. And then as soon as you are asked out, you sitting up here and got body parts amputated, you a diabetic and life ain't right, then no one is there. Now, I don't know. It could have been like her sister could have been sick too. And, you know, maybe she didn't have no other family members, which I don't see how that's possible when I done just found family members. But, you know, like, where was everyone at when she was down and out? Because I know she was there for her family. Before I completed this video, I remembered to call Essie Berry. And Essie Berry is the widow of Fred Rerun Berry, who played on What's Happening. And me and her have been good friends for about 5 years now. So I wanted to get some information on her, on did she remember anything that Fred said about Mabel before he passed away. And Essie Berry said she remembered Fred mentioning how Mabel was getting tired of the people on the show of What's Happening. And she said that she didn't need that money. She just wanted to have enough money to get her a home in Beverly Hills. He also said that once she went into the motion picture home, he really didn't talk to her that much, but he had heard maybe about 3 weeks before she passed away that a Caucasian couple had came inside the motion picture home and took her out, and then 2-3 weeks later he heard that she passed away, and he was very hurt by that. I don't know, people. Let me know what you think.
Won't you go back home, young fella? women and the big city gin will get you in a fix where you can't win. So you better take my advice. Don't let me have to tell you twice. Quit your fuss, get on that bus and go back home.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share this video and subscribe to Genevas Closet if you haven't already done so, right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Genevas Closet, and you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. You all have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.